want to tell my colleague it's been a pleasure to work with him on this. And what you have said is so eloquent. I'm going to be very brief and just make one point. What you want to make sure is the American people aren't in the dark with respect to important health issues. You want them to be able to comment. You want them to be able to weigh in. And I think that's extraordinarily important. And the reason it's needed is earlier this year, Robert Kennedy took the unprecedented step of doing away with that and basically taking away that right to comment on matters that are so important to them. From day one of his tenure at HHS, he's gone to great lengths to upend public health and erode the safeguards that have been in place for decades to keep kids and seniors and families safe and healthy. He's fired thousands of scientists, health professionals, and staff in charge of the health and well-being of kids and families. And one of the things that I appreciated your mentioning is the roots of this. The roots of the Richardson waiver are with Republicans. This was not some plot by a bunch of people for ideological reasons on the other side of the political spectrum. This was a basic proposition of making sure that people had a say in the health care policies that the federal government enacts. And I would just say to my friend, back in my days when I was director of the Great Panthers, I know my colleague was with Legal Aid, we thought the right to participate was just about as fundamental as you can get. And doing away with that makes it a lot easier to undermine science and health care in America and make every one of us less safe. And under the rule change that's being talked about, it's all being done for reasons of secrecy. Since Kennedy's repeal of the Richardson waiver, HHS has abruptly and arbitrarily canceled hundreds of millions of dollars of previously approved public health funding. The Secretary has announced a major reorganization of his department, resulting in fewer health experts at HHS. And without the Richardson safeguard in place, it seems to me we'll have a government that's emboldened to move forward with sweeping rules about vaccines without input from the public. Robert Kennedy and my colleague touched on this, promised radical transparency. We had the confirmation hearing in the Senate Finance Committee. So the promise was for radical transparency. What looks like what we got, to me, I'd say to my colleague, is radical secrecy. Instead of throwing open the doors of government, what's happened is the gates have been shut and the key has been thrown away. So the resolution that you are introducing today makes sure that the American people get their voice back. And on what I think is the most important issue, which is health. I've visited with my colleague before on this. I've always felt the most important issue is health. Because if you and your loved ones don't have their health, everything else goes by the board. And what you're doing with this important resolution is giving Americans a say in the future direction of their own health. You're giving them the power to speak up about this crusade against health care and the power to speak out against the policies that are making them less safe. I come to the floor today to say that this is a thoroughly nonpartisan CRA. You look at this and the language and what you're trying to do and how you've described it on the floor has really drained some of the ugly partisanship out of an important debate. You said this comes down, as I said earlier, let's make sure the American people aren't in the dark. I urge my colleagues to vote for transparency, to vote for the right to weigh in on these health care issues, and I yield the floor.